This is Mr. Paul's Pantry and I'm Mr. Paul, and welcome back. If you're new, I'm glad you've called round to have a look at this video. Today I'm going to show you how to make a cake which is not so popular these days as it used to be, but I still love it. It's a date and walnut cake. Let's do it. Now the ingredients we're going to need for this will be listed in the description box below the video and also on my website. I leave a link to the website, to the recipe on the website, also in the description box underneath. If you can't find that, some people have difficulty, look just below the video and it'll say see more. Click on that and it'll show you all the information. Now for this date and walnut cake we're going to need dates, of course. Now I've got chopped dates here. You buy them in a block and just break them up. If they're just what they call pressed dates and they're whole squashed into a block, you'll have to cut them up. So we need 200 grams of that. We need 200 grams of flour. Now if you're using 200 grams of self-raising flour, that's okay, but if you only have plain flour as I do, you have to add some baking powder, and for 200 grams you need to add a nice rounded teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, here I only ever buy plain flour. It's just because what we did in the bakery, and that's what I still do. But if you've got self-raising flour, just 200 grams of self-raising flour. We also need 75 grams of butter or margarine, 75 grams of sugar, 1 egg, 75 grams of walnuts, which I shall chop, and 125 milliliters of boiling water. It must be boiling. You'll see why when we carry on with the recipe. And into the dates, when we put the boiling water into the dates, we're going to add a pinch, a very good pinch, of bicarbonate of soda or baking soda. This is not baking powder. If you're using plain flour, use baking powder in your flour, but this is baking soda, bicarbonate of soda. It's different. Okay, so now we'll carry on and we'll make the cake. So we're just going to chop the walnuts, not too fine, just nice chunky pieces. It gives a lovely texture to the cake, to the finished cake. These walnuts I bought were actually broken walnuts. They weren't in halves, and they were a lot cheaper, I must admit, than buying the halves. I don't often see them, but the supermarket had both this time when I bought them. So, plus they don't take as much chopping. There we are. That's quite sufficient. They don't need to be any different to that. Now, as you can see, I've already put my pinch of baking powder into these, and now I'm going to add my boiling water. 125 mils or 125 grams. And yes, don't laugh, but I still use a whistling kettle. I don't possess an electric one. In fact, most of the 125. In fact, most of the equipment I have here in my kitchen is very old. Very, very old. Even the cooker which I use is more than 20 years old. So here we are now with the hot boiling water in there. Just give them a stir and wait about 20-25 minutes for them to soften. Right. We need to add the sugar and the butter. And those two things we need to cream together. Now you can use a mixer for this if you want. Keep your butter at room temperature. If it's very hard, just pop it in the microwave for about 4 or 5 seconds, that's all. Just keep mixing this until it blends with the butter, with the sugar. Nice and creamy. Well, this should take about 3 or 4 minutes in real time. Well, it's all coming together now nicely. You see that? Now when it's all nice and creamy, we need to add the egg, which should also be at room temperature. That's the best thing. If you don't have it at room temperature, then there's a great danger that the egg will cool down the butter and it'll go very split and curdly looking. Don't worry if it does, it doesn't make a lot of difference, but I like to get things incorporated nicely rather than mix it until it's all mixed in. Then we need to fold in the flour and the baking powder. If you're using plain flour, don't forget to add 1 rounded teaspoon of baking powder for 200 grams of flour. It's coming together nicely, as you can see. Now put in the rest of the flour. Excuse me. Now we're going to add the nuts and the dates. The dates, as they are with the water and everything, just go straight in. Don't worry about it. I'll give it all a good mix. Make sure you've got any dry flour from the bottom of the bowl all mixed in. You can see that's coming together quite nicely now. See that? Nice consistency. So now we've got the mixture all ready to go, and you should finish up with 800 grams of mixture there. Now that mixture will actually fill a tin this size. That's a 2-pound loaf tin. but I don't use that because it's too large for a cake. I'm diabetic, I don't eat them. I'd have a taste and then I give it away to somebody when I've made it for the video. So what I do is I use tins that I have left from my commercial kitchen when we had the bakery. I use £1 loaf tins, and instead of greasing them and messing about in the bakery, we used to buy these. And it's just like a giant bun paper or a bun case, which made to fit the £1 tins. If you obviously don't have these, just grease your tin, and I put a little bit of a strip of greaseproof down and hanging out so you can lift the tin and lift the cake out afterwards. It's very, very simple. Alternatively, use a non-stick loaf tin. Now I have to divide this between the two equally between the two tins, and as there's 800 there, we want 400 in each one, of course. So here we go. Almost there. That's right, that's 400. Whoops. And then we put the rest in this one. I don't really have to wait because I know there's 800, totting up the ingredients with the total amount. So, but just to see if my calculations are correct, I'll pop it in on the scale. And there we are, exactly 400. So 2 tins. What we're going to do now is just to flatten them out on the top, push them into the corners like so. Whoops. And we don't do anything more now to them, just pop them in the oven at 160 degrees if it's a fan oven, and 180 if it isn't a fan oven. Mine, I can switch the fan on and off, and I don't use the fan for making cakes, but there they are, you can see them in the tin, and off we go to the oven with them. And here they are, the 2 cakes you just see me make. Date and walnut loaf or cake, whichever you wish to call it, but it's really at its best when buttered and eaten with a nice hot cup of tea. I hope you've enjoyed the recipe, hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please go below the video and give it a like, little thumbs up sign there. Also, if you have any comments or suggestions, you can write those below as well. And if you haven't subscribed already, press the subscribe button, and when you do, you'll see a little bell icon like this. Just click that, and that will make sure you're informed every time I set up a new video. So until next time, it's Mr. Paul saying bye for now.